welcome into the Daily Deep Cut, brought to you by the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Should have maybe propped this up a little better before we got started here. There we go. Hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. Got another solid deep cut to throw your way, talking about classic rock from the 1970s this week. And if you're not familiar with the show, if it's your first time in, the concept seems pretty straightforward, but indeed every week we like to keep the 5 songs within a general theme. And I couldn't resist myself this week. It was time to indulge in some of my favorite classic rock, some of the stuff that really hit home for me personally as I was growing up, expanding my musical knowledge. And this is one of those songs, Meet Me in the Morning, that, like from the moment I heard it, I mean, Blood on the Tracks is just such a classic album in and of itself. But this song is so different. It almost feels like it doesn't belong in this set of tracks. But it's I feel like it's one of the few moments where Bob lets loose, jams. He's kind of getting out that more angsty side, that more traditional, I guess that traditional concept of what blues is, like emoting your frustration, just letting it all out, just howling at the moon, so to speak. And so it's great to be able to talk about this track. Before we get into this thing, go ahead and like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help me blow this project up in 2025. Looking forward to, doing more album reviews, fleshing things out, doing more programs like this. So it's great to have all of you aboard and to have your support. I appreciate that. Don't be shy about super chatting as well. Any of you have anything that you want to add, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your opinions on things in the comments section. The whole general idea of doing the live shows is to have the opportunity to interact with all of you more, and in a live format. It's great being able to comment on your post, the contributions that you make on videos, but actually having exchanges through this process is something that I look forward to developing with the channel, and something that I hope we all get to be a part of here as this thing moves forward. So getting back to the track of the day, featured on Blood on the Tracks, Bob Dylan's, I believe that's his 15th studio album. Yes, 15th studio album, released in 1975. We are actually on the cusp of this anniversary show. I'm really excited. I wanted to pull this up real quick. Working with Elvis Costello, Lucinda Williams, Sharon Van Etten, amongst many others to do this. If you're in Tulsa on January 24th, they will be celebrating the 50th anniversary of Blood on the Tracks. And so I'm sure you'll be able to hear a stirring live rendition of Meet Me in the Morning, which would be, I wish I had the ability to drive out there and check out that show. I bet it's going to be monumental, just one of those epic things that, it's one of those shows that you'll reflect on for the rest of your life. Like, I got to be there in that moment. I got to help Bob celebrate the 50th anniversary, half a century of one of his most iconic records. And it's a record too that a lot of people argue how autobiographical it is. Bob Dylan is the first to say that it is not. But that's just who he is, cryptic by nature. There's the analogy that I love the most. Someone was talking about Bob and the compositions here, and that this project ended up being, the perfect example of how thick do you make your shell. And I really liked the verbiage there. But there's no denying that at this time, Bob, his estrangement from his wife, Sarah, at the time, certainly led to a period of just frustration and sadness and loneliness. And, while he started a relationship with, how did I lose her name? It's Ellen Bernstein. There we go. Started a relationship with Ellen Bernstein right around 1974. And this particular project, it's interesting, getting into a little backdrop before we talk about the song. Norman Rabin, painter, Dylan talks about, I really like this quote. He's like, "Rabin taught me how to see in a way that allowed me to do consciously what I unconsciously felt. When I started doing it, the first album I made was Blood on the Tracks. Everybody agrees that was pretty different, and what's different about it is there's a code in the lyrics, and there's also no sense of time." I love I love that last phrase right there, no sense of time. This record really, I think what is so captivating about it is the ability to get lost in it. I think it's why it is one of my favorite records of all time. It's definitely one of my favorite Dylan records. And again, the cryptic nature of what he's doing. There's moments where his singing, like, he seems so sincere. And, songs like Tangled Up in Blue, Buckets of Rain, these songs, there's such a personal element, I feel, to his vocal that you can't help but feel that they're autobiographical. But then, you get songs like Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts, Idiot Wind, some stuff that just goes so big that it's just a great dynamic and balance that exists there. And I feel that Meet Me in the Morning is one of those songs with Dylan going big, feeling that angst. I feel like that song is the angsty part of this record. And it's another part of its brilliance, is the way that it captures the amalgam of emotions that one deals with when they're going through a breakup. You are angry, you are sad. There's part of you that still loves that person, so you still feel those feelings to a certain degree. It can be one of the most frustrating things in the world, falling out of love with someone. It's oftentimes there's no explanation for it. It happens. You feel yourself growing apart from someone, that person growing apart from you. The chasm that's created there, and that keeps dividing. And I think the toughest thing is knowing that there's nothing that you can do oftentimes. Like, that's the feeling of helplessness is another one of those feelings that gets tangled up in all of those other feelings of just knowing that no matter what you do, that the circumstances are just out of your power, and you just need to move on and move forward. And that is a big part of this record. Dylan, talking about talking about the influence of Norman Rabin there, and how it affected him, and how he was able to move forward with a different vision, being able to see his art, see his music and his writing in a different way. And I think that's just a big part of what makes this record and this particular song so exceptional. I love the story about Dylan previewing the song for Graham Nash, David Crosby, Stephen Stills, Tim Drummond, Peter Rowan. There's Nash recalls that Stills did not care for the live performance. He said that, man, the guy can write a song, but he's no musician. And this is coming from, three dudes that, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and even when they were with Young, these guys, the melodies and the harmonies and everything that was there, the musicianship, no denying that those three were quite something together. But it makes me laugh, and you reflect on a lot of the critics that talked about this record as well when it first came out. I want to read some of that too, because when it was first released, there's a couple of people. Rolling Stone actually had two assessments. Jonathan Colt called it a magnificent new album, but John Landau wrote, the record has been made with typical shoddiness, and I'm like, typical, like, that's, I don't understand the use of that word, or why you think the recording of this particular record was shoddy to begin with. Describe the accompaniments as often so trashy they sound like mere practice takes. Just absolutely crazy. But there's lots of other artists, and especially as time has gone on, the appreciation for the record, and actually, if you sit down and give it a few more listens, it's like, wow, this is a record that is something exceptional. It really does feel like one of the most whole efforts that he's put out from start to finish. It just from first track to the very end, every song on this record is absolutely phenomenal, and they come together so brilliantly. There's the drive in all the acoustic arrangements, and it's funny because he did start off wanting to do just electric arrangements for these, but changed his mind on a couple of things. It's pretty well known, but for those of you who aren't familiar with the recording, his brother David Zimmerman encouraged Bob to re-record half the tracks on this record, and half those tracks were recorded at Sound 80 Studios in Minneapolis. Just felt the production was too stark on those first recordings there. The recording of Meet Me in the Morning is one that was kept from the New York sessions there, but this song is actually rewritten. Call Letter Blues is the original version of this song, included on the bootleg series when that box set came out. So it's pretty cool to have that background to know that there's so much of this project that evolved quite fast. All Tracks in Open D Tuning talks about Irish folk musician Paul Brady and how he showed him the different ways to. There's minor. I mean, I don't play guitar at all. I play bass, but working with all those different chords and having to rework with your fingers. Paul showed him how to do all that. Pretty cool little backstory there. And that's there's a handful of musicians, people that worked on this project, people that Dylan ultimately ended up moving on from, that talk about the use of that open tuning and how, to a degree, it made all of the tracks sound the same. I kind of disagree with that. I think all of these tracks have very much their own identity, even if they are in the same tuning. But it's just a one heck of a song. This Meet Me in the Morning, leading off the B-side, the energy of it, when you think about the way that the A-side of the album ends. Idiot Wind is a big track, but then it finishes with You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome When You Go. So I like the pickup. I like the energetic turnaround. And this song kicks off with the lyrics. Pull them up here. Meet Me in the Morning, 56th and Wabasha. There's debate about 56th being actually Interstate 56, because there is no 56th and Wabasha intersection. But if you drop the TH, those two roads do intersect in Minneapolis there. I believe it's actually St. Paul where that occurs. But those are the opening lines. Honey, we could be in Kansas by the time the snow begins to thaw. And my favorite thing about this song is that you just open right up into it. And the development of that mean bass line, and it's just got this gentle little pop that carries this track. And this thing it's got that headbanging vibe. It's hard not to just roll along with it and jam. And there's a lot of songs in Dylan's catalog. That's not necessarily the effort. That's not the goal. I feel a number of the tracks on this particular record are not trying to go there. And that's what, just from the moment I heard this song for the first time, I remember my buddy picking up this disc when we were like 20 years old. I remember sophomore year of college, was able to find a copy at the record store. Quick little backstory. We had this great little record store called PDQ in Tucson, and just owned by this fantastic guy. He passed away probably like 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even a little longer than that. But PDQ housed one of the biggest collections of vinyl west of the Mississippi. Just this little gem right here in Tucson that not too many people knew about, honestly. I mean, your record buyers knew about it, but I would bring it up in conversation, and people would be like, "Huh, what are you talking about?" They might drive by it from time to time, notice it in their peripheral, and be like, "Oh yeah, that spot." But anyways, the proprietor, this guy named Jack, was a great guy, and we got to know him, got to chatting with him a bunch every time we'd go in, and he was really cool about giving us a little heads up on when he'd be dipping into estate sales, when he'd be finding stuff and bringing it back into the store. So that's how we procured the majority of our records growing up in our early 20s, from that store, and just getting a little heads up from Jack on when he's going to have a full payload. But I remember my buddy bringing this record home and us throwing it on, because, again, at the time, I cannot help but not bring it up. This was before streaming services. At the point you were able to burn CDs, things of that nature, but you still had to have access to a physical copy of the record. You could download files. Napster and those things were around, but the deep cuts on a lot of records, the less famous songs, the songs that wouldn't necessarily pull hits, right, weren't always up there. And so access limited, again, without the physical copies. And there was a handful of songs. If You See Her, Say Hello. I know Meet Me in the Morning, Lily, Rosemary, and the Jack of Hearts. Pretty much the whole backside of this record, I'd never really had a chance to hear. I was pretty much just familiar with Tangled Up in Blue, Simple Twist of Fate, and Idiot Wind. So a special moment Uh, just really love reflecting on sitting there in that room with my friends and the excitement that I felt when that record flipped over and when we heard Meet Me in the Morning and just that funky bass line, the soul, the bluesy nature of it. This is again, it feels like Bob Dylan in the process, or whatever entity he's embodying. There's a number of people that think that, and Bob Dylan has said that the songs on this record are inspired by short stories of Anton Chekhov. But there's no denying that I think the personal spot that we all know that he was in now is certainly there certainly is that level of personal. But I dig the way that through every song, Bob still manages to keep the separation from him. He still manages to write in a way where it could be him, but it's all of us. And that's what makes it so universal and so brilliant. Honey, we could be in Kansas by the time the snow begins to thaw. They say the darkest hour is right before the dawn. They say the darkest hour is right before the dawn. But you wouldn't know it by me. Every day has been darkness since you've been gone. I love that. That's just classic blues right there, in my opinion. Good vivid imagery. The use of the physical to convey, the nature of one's feelings, the condition of the heart, so to speak, in that time. Little rooster crowing, there must be something on his mind. Little rooster crowing, there must be something on his mind. Well, I feel just like that rooster. Honey, you treat me so unkind. He says, well, I struggled through barbed wire, felt the hail fall from above. Well, I struggled through barbed wire, felt the hail from above. Well, I even outran the hound dogs. Honey, I've earned your love. Going back to that feeling of, I've done all that I can for you. Why is this happening? Why are we going through this? And even on the writer's end too, it could be an admission of, I put myself through all this and then I make these mistakes. Why would I do that? Got that open-ended interpretation for those lines, and I love the multiple angles that you can tackle with that. Look at the sun sinking like a ship. Look at the sun sinking like a ship. Ain't that just my heart, babe? When you kissed my lips. Simple writing, but I gotta point out personnel. Richard Crooks on the drums, on that, and then Tony Brown on the bass is really just loving the rhythm there. Again, this is a song that has so much groove and so much feeling and so much soul. It's one of my favorites for a reason. You got Buddy Cage working on the pedal steel on that song as well. Just a solid number of players joining Bob Dylan on that track, and it's a gem. It's one that I would say there's so many big tracks on this record. Ones that I mentioned earlier: Tangled Up in Blue, Simple Twist of Fate, Idiot Wind, Shelter from the Storm, Buckets of Rain. This is a song that it gets overshadowed because it is overshadowed by some of Bob Dylan's most legendary songs. But please take some time to throw on the B-side of Blood on the Tracks if you own a copy. Just drop that needle straight on this thing and give Meet Me in the Morning a go. And with that said, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take it easy and tune in tomorrow. It is Friday. We got one last classic rock deep cut that I'm going to deliver for you guys. Really excited about that particular track. I don't know if I want to hint at it. Maybe it's coming. It's another one that's coming early in the 70s. I will say that. I will say that this band really exploded around 1967, 68. And then this is their last proper record. I'll say that. The band released one more record after this, but a lot of people don't consider it to be a part of that catalog with the original lineup. That's all I'm going to say. I'll leave you hanging there. You guys take it easy. We'll see you tomorrow.